Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Cryptic TMG, and yeah, I'm gonna be making a full setup video for the BMW Z4 around Dubai Autodrome, which is the next AOR race. And the Z4 was a car that I briefly thought about using, but in the end I ended up with the Renault RS01. So yeah, we're gonna get into the setup on the Z4 and see what we can do, see how we can get the car to handle around this track, because previously on the last game the Z4 was a beast at Dubai. So I'm thinking maybe you have a chance to get the car to sort of handle the same way as it did before. If I can, then it's going to be a pretty quick car, because I feel like on P-Cars 1 it was sort of quite slow down the straight, but on this game it's got a little bit more straight line probably than it did on P-Cars 1. So if you can just get that cornering speed, then I think the car has got potential. But yeah, let's get stuck into the setup. So straight away we're going to go to load setup and just go to loose for now. I found the Z4 did understeer a little bit, so whenever I had tried it in the past, when I put it on stable it was a little bit understeery, so I'm going to try loose this time. And actually from the default setup, we're not going to change too much. We're just going to change the basic things that sort of I normally change in every car, which will be like steering ratio, maybe knock the cambers down a bit. I'm not sure how heavy the caster angle makes the car feel in this car. In the Ferrari, I normally put it all the way down to 5. The minimum here is 6, so I'm going to leave it at maybe 6.5. And if it is too heavy, then I'll probably, between the force feedback settings and the caster angles, I'll probably fine tune that. Bump stops really high in this car, which is pretty crazy because I normally have them between minimum and like 5, but we're gonna put them at 10 all round. Z4 normally pretty good over the bumps, so shouldn't be too much of a problem. Engine braking on 4, which is quite high for a loose default setup. We'll put the radiator down. The fuel we'll put to 95, which is sort of the standard amount of fuel normally for AOR race. And I know the BMW has loads of gear selections, which is quite handy actually. I'm gonna go for 3.917. Put the traction control up. Put the power amp up to 65, and yeah, we'll see how the car handles and see if it's got chronic understeer. Actually, also we can knock down the rear brake ducts, I think. Right, we'll go 2.8 on the wing for now. Automatic by weather, which will probably put us on the hard tyres, especially with this track temp. But yeah, let's see how the car handles. And already I can tell you that the caster angle is just way too low. There's literally no force feedback whatsoever. So we're going to go up to 8, and hopefully that will feel a lot better. Also, driving through the first corner, I just noticed that there was pretty much just no rear end grip. Quite a lot of turning, which is good. We're just going to up the ride height just a little. Yes, where were we? So we're gonna put more rear wing on, I believe. Start off with 2.9. I mean, the engine braking is pretty high, but I think for some reason in this car you kind of need it. I don't think some of the other cars you can sort of get away with a even 0 with the engine braking in some of the other cars, but in the Z4 it just, especially when you come into tight corners, it's just not having it. So yeah, we'll go again, maybe drop the preload a little bit, and that's just so the car actually turns in a little bit more when you get to the faster corners near the end of the lap. So let's see how it does. So let's see how the car handles. first up out the pits. Wow. .36.6 first lap without really having to push. Quite good in that first corner, to be honest. Definitely a lot of changes need to be made though. The hairpin still feels pretty difficult to attack in this car. You see the back end wanting to come round on heavy braking, which is a bit of a problem, to be honest. So 2 36.6s in a row. Not great, to be honest. Not actually that bad in the first sector, but the middle sector and the last sector is well off. So let's have a look. Let's see what we can do. So I'm going to go straight to suspension because I think actually having it on 9 is a little bit better for the caster angle. For some reason I just think more camber is probably going to work for this car. Do get quite a lot of wheel spin on corner exit, and you get sort of understeer as well, so it's a bit tricky because the more I put sort of the spring rate and anti-roll bars up on the rear, the more sketchy the car's going to be on corner exit, but it's going to turn more. Let's see what the front spring actually goes up to. Only 240 and we're already at 220. Okay. For me personally, I'm going to try to again invert the slow bumps so the back end sort of rotates a little bit more. I'm gonna put this up, and I tend to do that in quite a lot of cars. For me, makes them handle a lot better, but we'll see if it works in the Z4 as well. Alright, so that's the maximum. We'll put that down to about 15.8. Fast bump, it's quite high in the Z4. That's a lot of understeer. So put the rear fast bump up just a little. I think the gears are gonna have to be a little bit shorter. Very weird in this game, to shorten the gears you go left, and to put them, no, I've said it the complete wrong way. To shorten the gears you actually go right, and to lengthen them you go left, which is a little bit weird to me anyway. But I'm gonna try to use a shorter gear ratio as well. We've got the ABS strength on 80 because the braking pressure is on 95, so you want to be able to brake quite late. Everything else seems okay. with the change we made to the dampers. Obviously it's quite a drastic change, so the complete handling of the car should change. I don't tend to like running this much toe on the rear of the car. I'm either at 0 or 1 for the rear toe. I prefer to have a negative toe on the front, just to get that little bit more turning. We're going to try this car out, see how it goes. If not, we're going to have to do something with the spring rate. And obviously when we're messing with the spring rate, we can just, if we got too much rear wheel spin and we don't want to adjust the traction control, then we can always put the power ramp a little bit higher. But again, that's going to give us more understeer on throttle. So yeah, for now I'm actually going to put it to 70 and see how we go. Let's see how the car reacts now. Actually ran a little bit wide there, and a little bit wide on the exit. Great. We'll keep going as to see if the car feels better in other parts of the circuit. Yeah, definitely better through that corner. So you can see there, would have gained a good amount of time in the last sector, but obviously we went wide on the track, so we're not going to complete the lap. I'm going to start a new one. That would have been probably mid 35, which is not, I guess, not terrible for the Z4. Tires a little bit warmer. So we're even further up than we were before. Uh-oh, what have we done? Wow. Unbelievable spin. And that is the problem I find with first gear in this car. It can sort of pitch you into a spin. But I'd say that was definitely towards a low 35. Guess we could try again. No harm in trying again. So I got sideways into turn 1. Managed to still carry a little bit of speed through. And we did totally cut that. Alright. Let's go back to the garage a second. and just want to start adjusting adjusting tire pressures, and they're gonna have to be individually done. I'm gonna put these up just a little. I did actually forget about the longitude weight bias. Normally if you pull it all the way to the rear, it gives you a lot better acceleration. If you have it towards the front, it will give you a lot better turning. We're gonna stick it probably more towards the rear, not all the way to the rear, but more towards the rear. Brakes do get quite hot at this track as well, especially with the temperature. We'll put the rear brakes up because in the race the brakes tend to get hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter. So at the beginning, it might feel like your brakes are still too cold, but I mean, they're gonna heat up, especially if the temperature rises. Other than that, maybe just a little bit more wheel weight, a little bit more toe at the front. To be honest, I feel like the car's not too bad. The changes we made seem to actually work quite a lot. And what we want to do now is sort of put the traction control up even more, because I notice sometimes we drive over the curb and the traction comes in and that's just going to slow us down. So we keep going up and up on the traction, which obviously more traction is actually less. It doesn't make that much sense, but that's just how it is. So the more traction control percentage you go up on, the less traction control you actually have. So we're going to go up to 20 and try and find the perfect balance. And yeah, other than that, the car feels pretty good. We definitely should be on for at least a low 35, which I think is pretty decent for the Z4, considering it's quite an old car. So we're getting on the outlap, and hopefully we don't mess this one up. We just want to sort of get a reference of where the car is. We have a lot more wheel spin now, obviously a little bit less traction control. And we'll try not to go down to first gear for that corner. If we do, we're gonna have to sort of go down to first and straight back up to second. I think the second lap is a lot quicker than the first, so we'll do a couple of laps. Wasn't the best line for that corner, to be honest, but still up. Z4 really nice for that corner now. So there's the 35.5. Got into a bit of a slide there, which obviously just going to cost us time. There might have been a slight cut again. Technically got away with it, but I think it was a bit of a cut, to be honest. Wasn't as quick through that corner this time. Took a wider line in to get a better exit. Not that a bit wide. Yes, we do. Oh, managed to save it, but yeah, we messed up that lap. Let's try again. Try not to slide it in the first corner. And we're just totally wide. And we'll be wide on the exit. Quite a difficult set of corners. If you miss the apex of the first little left-hander, then you're pretty much screwed all the way down the straight. But I'd say at the moment the base of the car is pretty sound. Sometimes I think first gear out of that corner may just give us a little bit more in acceleration. So we're going to try that on the next lap and see if it's giving us anything. And also for this corner, I think that going up into 6th gear before the corner is actually more of a hindrance. So I'm going to keep it in 5th next time round. A little bit too much sliding there again. That wasn't great either, but we'll carry on. Went into first gear a little bit too early there. And the back end came round, which is, I mean, that's the reason why you sort of have your engine braking on 4, is to stop the back end from coming around. So I actually ended up restarting the session by accident, instead of returning to pits. But there was something that I did want to try. I briefly changed this out, but I'm going to try something that I used to normally use on P-Cars 1 for this car, and it was normally about 0.5 wings. Also, I'm going to change the gear ratios, and I'm going to go for something longer. Normally in this car it's on 3.6, so I'm going to try the default gear ratios again. put it as test 4. And we'll get rid of... yeah, that'll do. Right. So let's see. The technically should get a little bit less wheel spin now. Wow. Hell of a lot of understeer, 0.5. A lot more understeer through that corner. The first gear does feel a little bit more natural now. Definitely a bit too much understeer, I think.
We need cool air into the radiators. Your engine's overheating.
Car's definitely a lot slower with 0.5 on. So we're about a second off with the higher gears and 0.5. Yeah, I'm not having these this downforce, definitely not. You can see through every sector we're just struggling, but I'm not sure if that's down to the gears or whether that's down to the downforce. So we're just gonna go back to what we had. 2.9, and gonna try that experiment again. I mean, I think the higher gears are a little bit smoother, but I'm not sure if they are as quick. think the higher gear ratios definitely contribute to the understeer. Alright, let's see.
Take it easy with those revs. Your engine temps are getting critical now.
Far less wheel spin though, with the high gears. It's still quite some way off, 4/10 off what we did before. We just ran way wide. So what was the first sector time we actually got before? Still 24.8. Middle sector was actually slightly quicker. The last sector was a big problem, but I did kind of mess that up. Interesting. We'll go back and maybe put the gears down by 1. That's the wrong way. And we'll try 917 instead of 977, which we had before. Yeah, let's try that. See if we can strike the perfect balance. But at least it's given us a banker. Especially that first corner I thought was pretty poor and all that. As we almost drop it. I mean, I think this car is quite sensitive to the engine braking, so it's pretty difficult to go below 3 without having adverse effects whenever you're in heavy braking zones. Right, hopefully we can manage a decent banker. And it's just about catch the slide then. Oh, gonna run wide again. Absolutely shocking. We'll see how far we can get up if we manage to nail that last sector. We don't, because the back end comes round. Alright. Felt a lot better for the first few corners, although I still had to sort of catch the slide. Let's go again. Didn't get the perfect line, but better than nothing, I suppose. And we dropped it towards that corner again. Right. Am I gonna have to put this engine braking back up? It'll be a pity because the car feels real nice at the front end, but it's just can't seem to brake late into that corner, which again is pretty important. So we'll try another lap, see if that little bit more engine braking has made enough difference. Tad bit more understeer through that corner. Alright, let's see. Now this corner is a big test. You can see much more stable now.
Your engine's overheating. Try to use less rev.
Didn't take a great line through that corner, to be honest. Felt like a pretty good last sector though. And point 4, and that was pretty much all last sector. First sector was an improvement too. Middle sector, I think I messed up that right-hander, and yeah, I think that's definitely a bit more progression. If you look at how much time we actually lost, I think we lost about 2.5 temps. So looking at a low 35, which is pretty much what I predicted the Z4 will be able to do. Maybe maybe it can go quicker. I don't know yet, but let's carry on. Wow. Let's just see what happens if we don't mess that corner up this time. We kind of mess up the hairpin. It's pretty tricky to get that right in this car. You got to sort of go down to first gear at the right time. If you go too early, the back end steps out. If you go too late, then you just never make the apex. Just double check our automatic clutches off. Sometimes it helps to short shift through that corner. Really bad run into the straight, but let's just see. It's important to nail the first corner. And run wide again. Alright. I'm not sure whether to keep it in second through that chicane or short shift up to third really early. Sort of kill the revs and should give us a little bit more turning. Not sure if the run down the straight will be any quicker. I always feel like I just need that brake balance on 57 just to get the braking and turning perfect, but then you run the risk of, you know, sliding through turn 1. Don't want to change too much from what we have now because it is pretty nice, but let's go back down to 57, and 210 now is max. It is max downforce, so let's see. But I wouldn't change too much from what we have here, to be honest. Now it will just be all about just getting used to the setup, doing lap after lap, seeing if the car falls off or whether it's able to maintain the pace. Feels so much better on the outlap, that corner. Don't know why. Weird. I think the rear end for that hairpin was a lot more compliant on the earlier setup, which I believe was like test 2 setup. Completely sliding in turn 1 again. Still got a penny. Thought I was just on then, to be honest.
The engine's overheating. We'll have to take it easy for a lap or two until she cools down.
Was a really poor run through that corner on the lap before. Must have been a great last sector. I mean, the car doesn't feel bad, it's just little niggly things, and definitely you can still feel the car pushing. That might be because we've obviously upped the power ramp from before, but you can still feel the car pushing out on acceleration just a little bit. We'll knock that down. We'll try 60, which is going to be quite a lot of wheel spin for this car. But we'll see how it goes. So let's see. We see the wheel spin out of the last corner. Wasn't as quick through that section as before.
Shift early for a few laps. Your engine's overheating.
But you can see how much time is made up through the middle here. We managed to make up quite a big chunk of time through the middle then, so maybe it is just a little bit quicker. Wow, lots and lots of time in the last sector again. But you can see we're just constant 35 fours. Thought we would get a penalty for that. So yeah, let's go back to the pits. I think that all in all, the car probably could get down to a 35-1, maybe a 35-0. But any quicker than that, I think you'd have to be really pushing track limits and stuff like that. I think we got track limits on the 35.419, but we've done about 3 or 4 35.4s since that were clean. Car's got potential. I think you could probably lap consistently in the mid 35s pretty easily. Whether or not that would be competitive, I don't personally think it would, but I think it's a solid mid-pack car. Just going through the setup now. Obviously there might be bits that you'd want to alter for yourself, but car felt pretty good. I mean, you can choose between 2 and 9 wing, as they're very similar. Obviously one's going to give you just a little bit more turning because you're going to get less understeer because you've got less rear wing. But I think the 10 at the rear was quite good, quite stable. Obviously the brake balance for this track, especially for that first corner, which is pretty important, between 58 and 56 balance, I think is going to be quickest. Brake pressure 95, I could even drop that down to 90. Again, I feel like less brake pressure through the first corner allows you to trail brake a little bit easier, because when you've got the brake pressure on 95, the car tends to slow down a little bit too quick. But then you're going to need the 95 brake pressure when you get to the tight corner at the end of the back straight. So I mean, a compromise, maybe 92, 93. I ran at 95 because I've just been so used to being in the Renault, which has pretty amazing brakes. But yeah, I'd say maybe 92. The suspension, caster angles I put up to 95 just because it suited how my force feedback is. And camber angles, to be honest, I'm not too sure with the camber, to be honest. I mean, having 3.3 on the front felt good. 3.1 probably doesn't feel as good, but it's obviously still quick, so I wouldn't change that too much. If you're getting too much wheel spin, you can drop the rear spring rate, but for now I'll probably keep it at that. Probably for a race, if you wanted to just make sure that you're not going to make any mistakes, maybe 120, 110. But still, car feels pretty good. The ride height's fine, the car can ride curbs, no problem. Anti-roll bar at the front was 90, at the rear was 30. We got rid of some of the toe that was on the rear because it just wasn't helping. Steering ratio 11.51, feels like it turns in pretty nice, not too sharp. The dampers, as you saw earlier on, I inverted them because it was just too much understeer for my liking. Bump stops on 10. Normally I would knock them down to 0 and see how the car feels, but I've put them on 10. I mean, if you want to test the setup, I would probably test 0 and see how that feels. But everything else, the car not too dissimilar to default. Obviously the engine braking on default, loose was on 4, and we've gone back to 4 just for a little bit of safety. If you feel like you can handle the car being a little bit snappy into the hairpin, then by all means knock this down, because it's gonna make you quicker over the rest of the lap. Final drive 3.917 I settled for. I think is probably the fastest combination. Traction control on 19, ABS strength on 80. I just feel like the car will start locking up after a while, and yeah, the rest is pretty bog standard. We've knocked the preload down. That's just to help with the last sector, especially when you go through the tight right-hander after the second sector split, and then tight left-hander after the second sector split, and then you got the fast right-hander leading into the last corner, which is really important to be flat out through that corner. So we've knocked that down to 70. Power ramp on 60. Was a little bit spicy on the outlap, but actually wasn't too bad with the power ramp knocked down to 60, so pretty decent. The coast ramp, if you can handle it, you probably want the coast ramp. Well, more coast is technically less coast, so the more coast you have on, then the more loose your car's going to be into braking, and the less understeer you're going to get. And obviously you knock the coast down, then you're going to get more stability under braking, but you're going to get a hell of a lot more understeer, and you kind of need the car to be able to change direction pretty fast on this track. And so we're going to stick with 35. The viscous lock I didn't touch, and yeah, that's pretty much the setup. So if you like this video, if you're driving a Z4, have a try and see if it suits you. Maybe you're driving a different car, you want to try out just a few things that I've done here. But yeah, anyway, it's Cryptic TMG. Like and subscribe, hit the notification bell to catch my videos first. Peace.